Hey, it's Storyworthy. Today on the show, writer Jordan Morris talks about his online dating mishap.
I get to the bar and it's packed. It's just packed on a weeknight, waiting for the woman out front. And then I see a woman come up from the parking garage. She sees me and just runs over and just gives me this huge hug immediately. And I was like, oh my God, hi, thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I know this is a little bit late. I know you had that meeting this morning. And she says, oh no, kind of funny story. The meeting got canceled, so I didn't have to do it. I'm like, hey, great. Happy accident. So we're driving, to the Village Idiot, and we both look at each other, and that's when we realize we're not the person the other one is there to meet.
Today on the show, writer Jordan Morris talks about his online dating mishap. Stay close.
Hey, it's Jordan Morris, and you're listening to Storyworthy.
Welcome to Storyworthy. My name is Christine Blackburn, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. Whether you're a longtime fan of the show of over 13 years, or you're a new listener, if you're a new listener, you have a lot of catching up to do. Either way, welcome to Storyworthy. Now, I hope you guys enjoyed the show last week with writer Bill Odenkirk. Bill is an amazing talent. Of course, his brother Bob Odenkirk is even a bigger talent on Better Call Saul. But last week, Bill Odenkirk shares this really fantastic story about his nightmare in Rome. And you might say, wait a minute, what could happen in Rome? Well, two things happened. Number one, he was taking a girl he was in the process of breaking up with, but the trip was still on. You know what I mean? So he had to do it. And then when they landed, it was September 11th, 2001. So anyway, fantastic story by Bill Odenkirk. You guys go back, listen to that show last week. It's so damn funny, but not today. Today, I'm here with another really interesting person. He's a writer, and he also has a podcast and a lot of other stuff going on. His name is Jordan Morris. Hi, Jordan. How are you?
Hey, great to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm so happy to meet you. I didn't know you before, so this is a treat.
Yes, no, I mean, what better way to get to know someone than to do their podcast? It's
well, I've looked into you, believe me.
Oh, good. Thank you.
And I know that you do have another podcast, which is actually pretty damn comfortable. What? Which is also pretty damn popular.
It is comfortable, though.
And that is called Jordan Jesse Go. And you do that with Jesse Thorne. He's pretty popular over there on NPR.
Yes, so he is.
Pretty cool. I have heard that.
Yeah, and I think the slight error was correct. It's a comfortable old shoe of a show. Jesse Thorne and I just shooting the shit with a lot of great guests who some overlap with the guests on your show. We just kind of shoot the shit every week. It's a very podcast 1.0 podcast, but we have fun doing it.
But also it's produced by Maximum Fun, which is an NPR company.
Kind of, sort of. So Jesse's show Bullseye that airs on NPR is part of Max Fun. Right. But I don't think all the Max Fun. I think most of the Max Fun podcasts don't air on NPR. I see. But isn't it interesting that when people start podcasting and you like it, you do another one? Am I right? It's true. Yeah. No, I think podcasts are kind of like cats and tattoos. You get one and then you're going to get some more. I've only got the one podcast at the moment, but you never know.
It's addictive though. It really
totally.
Is. Yeah, it really is.
You've got 3 at this point?
No, I have 2. Another
okay.
show of mine, mylifein3songs.com. You can go over there. My Life in 3 Songs. I talk to comedians about the 3 songs in their life that have impacted them. So it's not their favorite songs, but it's 3 songs. And we listen to the music. So the show is exclusively on Spotify because I use their music catalog. My Life in 3 Songs. In fact, I've got Jackie Martling on the show right now. Jackie the Joke Man Martling. He is, would you like to guess how old Jackie Martling is?
Oh boy, maybe 50s, mid 50s?
No. Jackie Martling from Howard Stern.
60s maybe?
75.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
But Jackie's great.
So his
man.
songs are all ragtime songs.
Yeah, right. No, he did have one song that was very old, and he made a really, I'll just share it with you because it's kind of a pitch for the show, too. We start talking about music, and he talks about how in 1959, he was in 1959, a song came out called Teenager in Love.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Dion and the Belmonts, a long time ago. And then when Jackie had a high school band in like the mid 60s, they started playing oldies. And even though it was only 1963, Teenager in Love was considered an old song. Because as you know, in 62, the Beatles came over and changed everything.
And yeah, sure, that stuff was considered old-fashioned. They're like, where's the guitars? Where's the mop tops?
Isn't that interesting? In just a 3-year period, it went from new music to fucking old tunes, man.
Oh, totally. And now I feel like, if like going to see a band with guitars is kind of old fashioned, it's kind of a kooky retro throwback to go see a rock band, it's wild how this stuff changes.
I see a lot of them too. I love
Oh, yeah, me too.
I love concerts. I love that about LA, that you can just, really find good shows. Anyway,
totally.
That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about are online dating mishaps.
Yes.
That's the story topic you bring forth.
Mm-hmm.
And have you dated online a lot or just some?
Yeah, I've definitely done it for a while. I think my first online dates were on Tinder, and that, was like 2 or 3 app cycles ago. And yeah, I've used a couple of other ones over the years.
Cool.
And I think I definitely saw it go from, kind of this fringy thing that felt a little bit like wild. It's like, you're just going to meet somebody you talk to on your phone. And, it felt a little dangerous. And I think that, people who, had been in relationships a long time are like, what are these insane single people doing? They're just meeting up with strangers in alleyways. And so I saw it go from that to just kind of like how people date now.
Yeah, it's normal.
I think that like, going up to somebody in a bar and saying, can I buy you a drink is weirder these days than meeting someone on an app. So yeah, it was really funny to see it go from.
Yeah. You might meet somebody who doesn't drink, and then they wouldn't even be there.
That too. Yeah, I know. Right. Yeah. And definitely like I totally see the advantage for like sober people or people who just don't like to hang around in bars. Yeah. They can date in a little bit more of a civilized way. But I know that online dating does have its insane things. And I especially if you're a person who dates dudes, you have to deal with fucking dudes and their dude shit. Yeah. But I think in general, it's a pretty nice way to meet people.
I know a comedian, he does this bit about the difference between, heterosexuals dating and homosexuals, and how heterosexuals will like message each other and then maybe have a conversation. And he's like, I went onto a gay site, and the first thing that popped up was, where are you?
Right. Yes.
That cracks me up. Yeah, no, it's, I totally get it. I mean, I've definitely been on a couple of the sites, and here's the thing. The thing. When you're on a site, let's say you're on OkCupid.
Okay.
And then you meet somebody, you need to get off that site and then re-enter the pool. Because if you just stay there on the site, even if you're dating other people, you keep falling in the algorithm. In other words, your fish is sinking to the bottom. And now you're like almost a bottom feeder because you've been on there so fucking long. So my strategy was get on, get a date, get off, and then go right back on. And then you keep looking like a new person.
Yeah. So you can just use the algorithm to your advantage. That's really smart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's one strategy. I don't know if it's perfect, but yeah, I think online dating has come a long way. And if you think it out a little bit, you know what I mean? Other people, they go on, and it's like crazy, it's just like hit me with 2 or 3 sentences, see what grabs you,
Yeah. And I understand why people do it like this, meeting up with someone in person. Yeah. There's definitely a frustration to like, it feels like you're chatting with someone on an app, and you would like to meet them in person, but that chat kind of like feels like it can go on forever. And you're like, okay, brothers and sisters, desert island movie.
Oh God. Yeah.
Is Mr. Halloween, what's your favorite? You're kind of just like,
sometimes it's very exhausting to go through all those things with people, that same story over and over.
totally. Oh yeah. And you have like a couple of anecdotes that you try on every date. And yeah, it can feel really repetitive. You can feel like you're in some sort of weird time loop, just like,
Yeah.
who cares? What'd you go to college for? Or that's when you've got a connection.
Yeah. What's your major?
When you feel like you can break out of that, cycle there.
I agree. All right. Now I want to talk, before we get to your story about online dating mishaps, I want to talk about your second graphic novel that's coming out. It's called Youth Group.
Yes.
Which, right away connotates to me, youth group connotates to me a religious thing.
It is. Yeah. So it is a story set in the world of organized religion. This is something I grew up with, was the kind of hip youth group where like the youth pastor is a cool guy with tattoo sleeves and he sits backwards on a chair and tells you about a cool guy named JC who loved to keep it real. And he was pretty punk rock, if you ask me. So I grew up with going to these types of like Bible studies aimed at, kids and teens.
Did you have to go to them or did you want to go to them?
I think I was all about it. So it was a real like social scene when I was in high school. Like it would be like a cute girl would invite you. It's like, hey, me and some friends do this pretty cool thing on Sundays where we just hang out and talk about what it's like to be teens. And like the churches would have punk shows, like the kind of multi-purpose rooms of the churches would have punk shows. Sometimes they were like religious punk bands and sometimes they were just like secular punk bands who needed a place to play. And so you would like go to these shows and like, and they were all ages so we could get in. And then, inevitably someone would stand up and go like, hey, if you like this show, maybe come back on Sunday where we're going to rap about a pretty cool guy upstairs who thinks that you matter as a teen. So it was that vibe. And, and I have a complicated relationship with that time in my life, but I've always thought it was a very fun little world and something I've never really seen depicted in media that well. I feel like I've never seen something that gets at how funny that was or something set in that world that seemed, like it was informed. Like I didn't see anything that seemed like, the person making the media had any kind of real experience with that. So I'd always kind of wanted to set something in this goofballs setting. And so then I kind of just got to thinking, wouldn't it be funny if those, goofy dorks had to do exorcisms? I was reading an article, 5 years ago or something about how in America, exorcisms are on the rise. Like people just do exorcisms in small towns. And I saw a video of people at a Starbucks on a Starbucks patio doing an exorcism to someone who was speaking in tongues. It was wild. So it just kind of got me thinking about that time in my life. And what if, in addition to singing goofy parody songs and, watching Back to the Future and talking about how Marty's journey was a lot like Jesus's journey. What if instead of doing that stuff, we were doing exorcisms? So that was kind of the germ of the story. And so I kind of worked out this little world with characters and pitched it to the graphic novel company First Second. They paired me up with a great artist named Bowen McGurty, who has a lot of great books out there. They've written a great creator-owned book called Spectre Inspectors.
And Bowen is an illustrator, right?
Also a really great writer too. But in this particular project, they were just doing the art and I was doing the script. So yeah.
It is a YA horror comedy.
It is.
And I love the cover. It's just so good looking.
The cover's gorgeous. Bowen is so talented.
Guy coming down from the top, guy coming up from the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And the cover says, Kay's new friends pray together and slay together.
Yeah, so that was all the marketing department at First Second. I cannot take credit for that great line, but yes.
Oh, it's really good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, no,
really
I was stoked. I laughed out loud when I saw it. So yeah,
fabulous.
The
and
cover's
the book
gorgeous.
is available right now for pre-order. You can get that at millstreetbooks.com, or you can also, of course, just go to jordanmorris.net. And then the link will be there, right?
Yeah, it's jordanmorris.net. Also, bit.ly/youth group book. You can see some of the art and you can get all those pre-order links. Amazon, Barnes and Noble, your local indie bookstore. Everywhere.
I've never heard it pronounced bit or bitly. I always say bitly.
Oh, funny. Yeah.
Is it bitly? What do you say?
I say bit.ly, but I have heard people say bitly. So I think it's I think it's a potato.
I love that resource. It just shortens the links. So that's pretty sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, yeah, you're such a talent. You're really.
Oh, shucks. Thank you.
I was going to say well-rounded. What am I? 84?
Sure. You're my high school guidance counselor. Yeah, Jordan's very well-rounded.
You are a wonderful writer. Real quick, did you have a choice in giving in the illustrator, or did they say, Bowen, we think Bowen will work well with you?
Yeah, that was all First Second. My editor, Callista Brill, kind of read the pitch. I hadn't written the script yet. And just kind of based on the pitch, she knew that Bowen had done some kind of similar horror comedy stuff. And it's kind of a weird tone. It's Shaun of the Dead or Buffy the Vampire Slayer, where you want the horror stuff to be real, but also you want the jokes to land. So you want somebody who can do both the horror stuff and the jokes. And I think Bowen's work did both those things great. And yeah, their characters are so expressive. And Did you make changes, or did you say anything like, could we do this or that? I think, when you're doing a comic book script, when I'm doing a comic book script, I guess I should say, I try and give direction, but not handcuff the artist. Like, you want them to feel like they can express themselves. You don't want things to be so detailed to where they feel like they're not having any input. So yeah. And also I want to acknowledge that I am not an artist, and they probably know better than I do as far as, how to visually tell a story. So yeah, I like to put in suggestions and put in directions, but also like leave enough room for them to play too. So
yeah, cool. They're the illustrator.
Yeah, of course.
Like, that's what they do. So I would think that they would have a good, good sense of what's going on. And of course, the agent wants to make you happy. It's not like anybody's pitted against you to make it not good. Exactly.
Yeah. And Bowen was just so lovely to work with. Such talent. Neat. I can't wait for people to see the book. And
that's exciting.
And so I immediately went out and got all their other books and read everything they had ever illustrated and or written. And I'm like, oh, this is a perfect person to work with. I'm so excited. So yeah. I'm excited for folks to see the book and also what Bowen does next. I think they've already announced Bowen's next books, and they look really cool. So,
well, Youth Group is available, like I said, on pre-order. Jordan, you didn't mention this. I'm going to say it. You have written, though, for shows on HBO Max, Disney Plus, Comedy Central, Cartoon Network, and YouTube Originals. And I wanted to ask you, just kind of stepping back a few sentences, how do you see the difference in a comic book script and a graphic novel script?
Oh,
the graphic novel manuscript. I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, so writing a graphic novel is interesting. There's no industry standard, right? Like, if you were to write a screenplay, you would write it in Final Draft, and all the conventions would be the same. Comics are a little bit different. I read a great book before I started writing comics called Words for Pictures by Brian Michael Bendis, great comic book writer.
I love that title.
I know, it's a great title. Yes, anybody who wants to try comics or just is interested in how comics are created, Words for Pictures, great book. And his advice was ask the artist what they want. It's after you write the script, it's their show and you need to make them look good. So give them the kind of script that they want. so with Bowen requested something that looked a little bit like a screenplay. So I just kind of did it in Final Draft and wrote it as a screenplay and had like some kind of notes about visual stuff and how I wanted the characters to look. And they also requested a lot of playlists for each character. This is kind of funny. They asked me like, oh, what music would these characters listen to? So I put together, and it's set in the 90s. So I like went back to my high school days.
Love it.
And, got to listen to all this kind of wacky 90s music again.
I love 90s music.
Me too. It was a fun time in music. It really was. It was fun to revisit. And even the stuff I kind of didn't like in high school, like Hanson, Yeah. I was a punk kid, so I didn't like Hanson. I'm like, Hanson fucking rocks. Hanson is great. All these songs are catchy. But also, so that was kind of what Bowen asked for. But I've also written some stories for Archie Comics, and they have a house style that they like you to write in. So
interesting.
So yeah, and so I kind of had to adapt to.
Well, in other words, when you say a style, you mean there was actually a style guide of what Archie says and doesn't say?
Not so much with like what the characters can and can't say, but just how they want the script to look. The Archie folks are pretty permissive. I'm actually the stuff I've done for them has been horror based, so you can just kill them on every page if you want to. They're very permissive about that, but they do want the scripts to look a certain way. So the scripts I have done for Archie are a little more paneled out, they say. So it's like panel 1, Archie and Jughead are at Pops. Archie is holding a milkshake glass. He says,
that makes sense.
They're a little more. It's a little more.
It's more the comic that you think about, comics that people think about. It's more like the first comics.
Yeah. So I mean, every project is I think going to be different, and you just kind of have to prep yourself for like, I'm going to have to adapt a little bit, and this might not be exactly like the last project, but you might have to learn some new skills.
It keeps it fresh, and it keeps it fresh. You the artist that you are.
Yeah, yes.
And again, you guys, you can find Jordan over at jordanmorris.net. Yes, that's it. All right, you guys, wherever you are, put your hands together for Jordan Morris. Yay.
Hey, thank you for having me. Great to be here. No, sit down, everybody. No need to do a standing ovation at the beginning of the story. So my story is about an online date that turned out to be kind of insane. I was online dating, and at the time I was working for the TV show At Midnight, which was a late night show. Blaine Capatch also on that writing staff, who I know you know very well. One of the funniest people ever to live.
That's right.
And so that job was a wonderful job, but made dating a little bit tough, just because I don't know if you've ever worked in late night, but the hours are kind of wacky. You get out kind of late at night. So it was just kind of tough to arrange these dates, because, I had to kind of say to people like, hey, I'm really excited to meet up. My schedule's a little weird. Are you fine meeting at 9 p.m. And, I've kind of felt like when I was doing this, the only places I could suggest for us to meet were like a bar or a Denny's. I'm like, this is all that's open. Wow. I know. And so, and I kind of understand some people not wanting to do a bar on the first date. It was, my options were limited, and I felt like I, was just having trouble moving connections from the app space to the real world.
Yeah. And was the show, what time did it tape?
So the show taped at like 4 or 5, and then we would, kind of wrap the show, and then sometimes we might have a little extra work to do. So it was a little bit unpredictable, but I feel like, most nights I was getting out at like 8 or 9. Mm-hmm. And, so I was chatting with this woman on the app. It was going great. And I, said, hey, I would love to meet up. Is it okay if it's a little later at night? And she was like, I have a meeting that day, so, I might be a little bit tired, but, I'm happy to meet a little bit later in the evening. So we arranged to meet at this bar. It was called the Fat Dog on Fairfax. Not there anymore. It's I think it's a sushi bar now. Anyway, just some, local LA restaurant updates for you. And I I get there at the bar. I get to the bar and it's packed. It's just packed on a weeknight. I do not know why. It usually wasn't packed, but I don't know, whatever. Maybe there was a game or something, but it was just like shoulder to shoulder. So I was kind of waiting for the woman out front. And then I see a woman come up from the parking garage. She sees me and just runs over and just gives me this huge hug immediately. And I was like, oh, my God. Hi. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming. I know this is a little bit late. I know you had that meeting this morning. And she's like, oh, no, kind of funny story. The meeting got canceled, so I didn't have to do it. I'm like, hey, great. Happy accident. So I was like, this bar is so crowded, shoulder to shoulder in there. Do you want to go somewhere else? And she's like, yes, I know of a good bar on Melrose. It's a little bit far away. Would you mind driving us? So I was like, yes, sure. Absolutely. We'll chat in the car. So my car is, parked on the curb. We get in my car. We start to drive over. And, we're doing that chit chat, we're doing that first date chit chat. Any brothers and sisters? Oh, what do you, where do you work? How's your commute? That's a big LA one. You have to complain about your commute for a little bit. Oh, that 405, huh? Yeah, I know. There's an In-N-Out burger on that block, so traffic is crazy. These are LA first date conversations. So, we're doing that. We're, in that thing, we're just like trying to connect. Like, what can we find that breaks us out of this weird, monotonous conversation loop that we get in during all these. And so she's like, where do you work? Where are you coming from? And I'm like, oh, I'm coming from this neighborhood. And she's like, ugh, I hate that neighborhood. The last time we were there, my boyfriend stepped in dog shit. So she, A lot
of information.
Yes, a lot of information in that sentence. Hey, I'm not nuts at this thing about, complaining about a neighborhood being gross. That's maybe a little snobby, but and but also maybe the thing most concerning in that sentence is the fact she mentioned a boyfriend. Now, could be an ex, but also, I don't know when the last time you were on a dating app was, but there are a lot of polyamorous people on dating apps. There's a lot of people who say like ethically non-monogamous or looking for a third or something. And I've seen it before. I had been on dates with people who had put this in their profile. It wasn't something I was like grossed out by, but I you like to know it going in, exactly. I want to, you want to be sex positive, you want to be open, but it's nice to know.
Because you should be able to assume
of course,
that much.
Right. So I said, oh, your boyfriend, is this someone you're still together with? And she's like, oh, yes. And I'm like, oh, so that you have an open relationship. And then she says, no, I just use these for networking.
Oh,
so which is also something I've seen on those apps. They have like friend tabs, and you do occasionally see people like just here to meet friends or like here to meet other creative professionals or something like that. And again, not something I'm against, but right, just not what I was prepared for.
That's right.
So I said like, hey, I'm so sorry. I absolutely thought this was a date. And she's like, no, that's okay. For me, this is just networking. And I was like, I am so sorry. I totally thought this was one thing. It is apparently something else. I'm really enjoying talking to you. If you want, we can go back. If you want, we can keep going to this bar we were headed to. I think the Village Idiot, which is also not there anymore. Anyway, RIP to the Village Idiot. Good bar. So I'm like, we can keep going to the Village Idiot and we can just have a drink and get to know each other and we can network. And that I'm fine with that being our evening. And she's like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. So I'm like, okay, I finally think I understand what's going on. And so we're driving, to the Village Idiot, and she's like, so what agency do you work for? I'm like, oh, I'm not an agent. I'm a writer. And we both look at each other, and that's when we realize we're not the person the other one is there to meet.
Oh no. Oh no.
So she came out of that parking garage looking enough like the woman on the dating app to where I thought it was her. The fact that she hugged me led me to believe that this is her. She thought so. She's an agent, and her boss had set her up on a drinks thing with another agent so they could network. She thought I was that guy. I thought she was my date. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be on a date now. You're supposed to be meeting this other person. And, funny mishap. I want to acknowledge that I easier for me to laugh at this as a straight cis white guy who is not in a car with a stranger. I'm sure there was an element, I'm sure she had a feeling of like, oh my God, I am in this rando's car.
Oh.
And I imagine she was maybe a little bit terrified and maybe couldn't see how this was funny. So yeah, we turn around and go back, and sure enough, the woman I'm supposed to have dinner with is there. The guy she is supposed to have drinks with is there. And it was so crowded in this place, we all had to sit next to each other at the bar. So her and this guy are sitting there, and right next to her on the two stools closest to them are me and this woman who, and I kind of had to like whisper it to her. I'm like, I'm sorry I'm late. See that woman 2 stools down? I thought that was you. And we drove, and I'm sure she thought I was insane. And also,
you put a lady in your car.
Yes, I know.
Away.
Yeah.
How far did you get?
We got, I mean, we were maybe driving for, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I mean, you've looked for parking on Melrose, right? It takes a long time.
Well, I know, but.
And so, yeah. And that date, the date ended up going pretty good. I think she politely declined my request for a second date, which I get. Obviously, sometimes you just don't click with someone. But when you're coming in with that weird energy of like, hey, I thought you were someone else, and we drove around a little bit. Like I can't imagine that I was able to like shake that weirdness for our dinner. So, no second date with the woman. And I realized, there's a part of me that realizes like the best ending to this story is if me and the first woman find each other later. Yeah. And we're like, I broke up with the guy who stepped in the dog shit. I loved being in your car for 10 minutes when I thought you were someone else. Yeah. That is not, I do not know where either of these women are today. I don't know if they still tell this story or remember it, but yeah, I wish it had a tidier moral, but I think just like when I think about this, I'm like, yeah, life's fucking crazy. And sometimes a weird thing happens and you don't learn anything from it, I guess. Yeah. Or
it maybe just happens.
It just happens. And yeah, maybe the moral is just like, to have the app open on your phone before you meet the person and just get one more look. Just get one more look at the app.
It's just like waiting for an Uber, verify the license plate.
Verify the license plate. Yes.
But wait a second. Did you never said her name? Did you get the person's name or just like their handle on the app?
Yeah, no. So I think I had both of their names, and I think that yeah, I guess I just realized how seldomly I say someone's first name. And just like to point out another weird thing about this, like the fact that we were able to have that conversation. Me, hey, I'm sorry this is starting so late. Her, oh, that's okay. My meeting got canceled. So those parts of our stories just happened to link up. Like she happened to have a meeting that got canceled. I was meeting someone who I thought had a meeting. Anyway, yeah. So just the fact that we were able to like converse for that long before realizing it is just such a wild little puzzle.
Yeah, it's really funny. And it's also funny that she said to you, no, I'm just here to network. Right. It doesn't make any sense. The word doesn't make sense.
And I also, try to put myself in her shoes for that moment too, of like, thinking your boss set you up with someone on a date, like how in that moment she's probably just like, fuck my boss, what happened? Like, why does this guy think this is a date? We're agents. We're supposed to be having a schmoozy drink, like
and then also the fact that she didn't really seem to bat an eye, the fact that then she discovers she's in your car and you're driving who knows to where.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where's this guy taking me?
God, it was you.
Yeah. So yeah, it happened. It was weird. And yeah, I guess
story.
I guess just treat those online dates like you would treat an Uber ride. Verify the license plate.
Now, what is, if you don't have to share this, but what's your dating name? Like, I mean, on the sites.
Oh, I think when I was using those, I think it is just your first name. I don't think it was like I don't think I had to make an online handle where it was like, whatever.
I hated the idea
Sonic the Hedgehog 69 or something.
Yeah, I hated the idea of making a handle. Tennis lover,
yeah, sure. Water polo freak.
Love to hike.
Love to hike. They all love to hike. They all love adventures. Looking for my partner in crime.
What is everybody online? Why does everybody say they like to hike?
I think it's just like, I think you're just saying like, I'm okay being outdoors. Like,
or I'm a walker.
I have jacked calves. I don't know.
Yeah, I am not disabled. I'm abled.
Yeah, I think you're trying to send the message like, hey, our dates won't just be like Netflix and DoorDash. We can go somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah, really funny. Well, listen, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yes, this is so fun. What a fun chat. Yeah, it was fun to relive that. I haven't told that
really
story in a while.
Yeah, I'm happy to meet you. And you guys, don't forget that Jordan's new book coming out. It's his second graphic novel called Youth Group. It's a YA horror comedy. That's really fun. I love that.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, it's a fun
YA horror comedy. I love that. I really do. Kids love that. I mean, everybody. It's not, you say YA and it might sound that it's for young people, but I think more so what you're saying is that they will also enjoy it. In other words, everybody will enjoy it, but YA. So if your kid's in 6th, 7th, 8th grade, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, totally. It's something I think there's a lot of, there's a lot of teen feelings in it, a lot of teen characters. So yeah, but I think it is YA in the way that like Buffy and Riverdale are YA. I think it's
were you a Buffy fan?
Huge Buffy fan. Yeah. And I'm sure if you read the book, it'll be very, very apparent, but
familiar. Yeah, it's such a brilliant show. I mean, it was so perfect. Just a perfect show, really. Before we go, are you writing another YA comedy now? What are you going to do now? Like, I mean, I know I don't mean to push.
No, that's okay. I may or may not be writing some more stuff for the Archie Comics Corporation. So keep an eye on all the Archie social media where that stuff will get announced. And I don't have another big comics project in the works. I would love to have one. So hopefully if Youth Group does well, more comics in the future because I love doing them.
Youth Group is such a funny name. I mean,
thanks,
just has such a connotation of just a disaster. Just, oh no.
Good.
And it's not like a real exorcism. It's a comic book.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a graphic novel.
Obviously, the idea of actual people in the modern age doing exorcisms is a little bit dark. But yeah, this is hopefully just a fun, kind of spooky, kind of funny.
It's not
romp.
like anybody says your mother sucks cocks in hell.
Yeah. Like no one's mother will be sucking anything in hell in this book.
That's good. I'm happy to hear that.
Some good fun, a little bit of romance, lots of jokes.
All right, you guys, we're going to wrap it up. Don't forget to check out storyworthypodcast.com. Join my mailing list. Why not? And then also check out mylifein3songs.com. You're going to love that podcast. And of course, don't forget to check out jordanmorris.net. All right, you guys, one more time on behalf of the very talented Jordan Morris. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Gosh, this was so much fun. What a great chat.
My name is Christine Blackburn saying, make it a story-worthy week.
Thanks for joining us on the Storyworthy Podcast. We'll be back next week with all new stories. Subscribe to Storyworthy on iTunes and visit the Storyworthy website at storyworthypodcast.com.